This is Ben Landesman with Lawson Screen and Digital Products.
This is Deborah Sexton.
This is Peter Walsh with M&R.
Scott Ritter with the Decorated Apparel Expo.
And you are listening to Two Regular Guys
Podcast.
It's hosted by Terry Combs and Aaron Montgomery.
A gift to the industry.
All right. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. It is Friday, June 26, 2020. I'm Terry Combs, and you can find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me at oursuccessgroup.com. Today, we're going to be talking with our good friend, Nate, whatever you want to call him, he says. We're good either way, but Nathan Lieber. And we're going to talk about the changing marketplace, kind of the trend towards order size downward and why and what we can do about it and all that kind of fun stuff. So looking forward to that conversation here today, Terry. That's going to be a wonderful conversation with Nathan. He's been, just really contributes to our industry. He's a younger gentleman than we are, and I think a real bright future.
Who isn't, Aaron?
Well,
well, than me.
Old guys. I'm now in the old guy category. Thanks a lot, Terry.
Veteran.
So Nate's a great guy, and I really think with people like Nathan, we've got just a really bright future in our industry here. So this is going to be a great conversation today. We had E-Rich in there, but he just dropped out. So we'll see if I can hit some buttons here today for a little bit until he comes back. So Maria, good morning. Thank you for joining us here. And Todd and Cindy from Odessa, Texas. And Eric was here, so I think he'll be back. Probably had the internet gremlins. Oh, there he is, back and in the saddle. Awesome. Good morning, Kim. And happy Friday, Charles. And you can call him whatever you want as long as you don't call him late for dinner. Oh, that's Todd.
Of course.
There we go. Good rainy Friday morning. And Chuck, good morning. Thank you for joining us. One other quick thing, Terry, before we get into the news section is I always think, gosh, we probably at some point need to update that intro just a little bit. And then when Peter Walsh says a gift to the industry, I go, no, that's okay. I can live with it.
Let's just keep it.
I love it.
Well, I think everybody, and we have, and for anybody who listens to the show regularly knows we have a variety of those intros with a variety of different people giving us an intro. And I think most everybody that's in there, they may not be at the same job they were at when they did that recording, but they're still in the industry. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've got a whole slew of intros that are in the old pile because those folks aren't at that same company they mentioned at the time.
Maybe Aaron, we should do this. We'll go in and dub in, and right before they say where they're from, you can go formerly from.
Yeah. The other thing we got to figure out, since apparently, and you're going to share some more information with us here in just a bit, but probably not a lot of opportunities for us to get together in 2020. It seems, it's like
you're looking that way.
Another major one dropping off that we've got to share here in just a second. But we'll have to figure out a way for people to submit their intros to be part of that intro somehow, some way. But anyhow. We'll get to that. Kim says, Terry, your new office looks awesome.
Thank you,
I imagine she had some part in that, or no?
She absolutely picked out the paint color and picked out this desk and picked out those bookshelves. But, man, I was right there nodding my head. Yes, I agree the whole time.
Way to nod and agree, Terry. That's very good. And then Kim says, we all need to head to your office. Yes, it's been a bit of a rough week, so I decided I was going to head to one of the places on my bucket list this week here. That's Pomaluka, Turkey is where that's at. So I hear it's kind of a mess with all the tourists and stuff there now, but maybe someday I'll get there and it'll still look as beautiful as it looks in this picture. So,
hey, will you bring me a T-shirt? I hope so.
Yeah. In fact, now I can even print you a T-shirt. So that's
there you go.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's get the news items. I know we don't have any extra time today for bonus time, so we want to get right into this. Here's the news item that I had. It's from our good friend Clay over at CorelTrainer.com. There's a free class recording from Clay at CorelTrainer.com called "Respect Beautiful Differences, Celebrate Similarities: Graphics, Artwork, and Printing Show Great examples of how amazingly diverse we are as people. Learning how to recognize differences in photos and graphics and work with them to achieve beautiful results can help us all grow our businesses. Skin tones matter in digital design. So if you want to check out that free class, you can head over to CorelTrainer.com and it is / Skin Tones Matter in Digital Designs. But just click the link there in that we'll have either in the show notes, or you can find them right there on screen if you're watching the video version. And so that's what I had. What about you, Terry? I know, like I said, we had some big news this week.
Yeah, absolutely. From Printing United Alliance, what most of us know as SGIA, here's their statement. As the COVID-19 pandemic continues to disrupt our lives and businesses, Printing United and our great industry are not immune to this intrusion. It is with great disappointment that we announce that we have made the difficult decision to cancel this year's Expo in Atlanta. So what used to be the SGIA Expo, now Printing United Expo, is now canceled, not postponed, canceled. They go on to say the unavoidable decision comes after extensive conversations with the convention center, with Johns Hopkins Center for Health, et cetera. And they go on to say the health and safety of our attendees and exhibitors remains paramount. And then they add, while recreating the experience of being together under one roof is a challenge, we could certainly do the next best thing. And they're doing a comprehensive online experience. And basically, it's going to be an online trade show like other folks are working at as we speak. And details, they say, will be forthcoming, and you can go to printingunited.com for updates, and you can also go to sgia.org as well, but it'll still redirect you there.
Excellent. Sorry, I was with that. I know Charles said, boo, and definitely a bummer. I mean, obviously, as they said, they make these decisions with lots of factors coming into play and trying to make the best decision possible for everyone. So it's definitely a disappointment. You know, I know a lot of us were looking forward to being there, but I was just checking my email because I just got an email from Scott over at DAX. So let me read that.
It's breaking news.
Yeah, the real breaking news. So, and then Terry, we may just hit this breaking news and give me a chance to read it, but obviously we really want the dad joke. That's what I know Christine's here for.
I do have a dad joke. I do have a dad joke. Are you ready?
It's awesome. Yes.
All right. Do you know what they're saying about 2020? Anybody know?
No, I do not. Sorry.
It went viral faster than anyone thought. Come on, that's good. That's a funny joke.
That's hilarious. Okay. Well, I did not do a very good job of reading this. So let me, before I start opening my mouth and getting into details that I'm not actually clear on, let's. The
bottom line will probably be, this is confidential.
Yeah, exactly.
All
So
right,
let me read it all first.
Go, you can read, okay?
Yep, sounds good. And then as far as let's hear a word from our yeah. Sorry. See, now I'm totally out of sorts. All right, go ahead, Terry.
We have, for all of our listeners, we have an outline that we follow, and Aaron is just totally not. So
I'm not following it. And then I know poor Eric got bounced out, so I'm not even sure if we're able to bring the the ad to you today. So we may have to dub that in podcast version style.
Very good.
So
Okay. Well, in the meantime, hey, we want to thank everyone for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. If you are listening to the podcast version right now, we would appreciate you sharing with your friends so that they can become regulators too. We would love and appreciate you giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or wherever you're listening right now. We are always looking for new guests. If you or anyone you know would like to join us on the show, you can go to calendly.com/2. That's the number 2, Regular Guys, and give us your show ideas. If you are watching us live right now, we would love to have your comments and questions. Reach out to your industry friends and have them join us right now as well.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you guys all for being here and all the comments. And let's give this a try if we can, Eric. So let's hear a word from our platinum sponsor, Impressions Expo.
What is Impressions Expo? Impressions Expo, formerly known as ISS, is the premier trade show dedicated to the imprinted and decorated apparel industry. They have 5 shows that are produced annually in each region of the United States, including Long Beach, California, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Orlando, Florida, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and cap off the year at Fort Worth, Texas. Each of those 5 annual shows also feature over 30 seminars and hands-on workshops in categories such as screen printing, embroidery, digitizing, digital decorating, and much, much more. Visit impressionsexpo.com for more details, and while there, use the promo code RegularGuysIE for a free Expo Pass. Again, make sure you visit impressionsexpo.com to get more details. And the 2 regular guys look forward to seeing you there.
All right. Well, thanks very much to Impressions. We'll see if we can get some more information from them as to any changes that they may or may not have to continue to make. Right now, they've still got their 3 shows on the schedule upcoming. So fingers crossed that we can get to those, including Fort Worth and Atlantic City and then Orlando. Those are still on the docket for them.
You know, Aaron, I didn't have anyone from Impressions Expo or the MBM show reach out to me this week. I counted that as good news.
Yeah.
Every week they've got, okay, here's the update.
Yeah, exactly. So that is good news. The information I got was an exhibitor update. So I won't get too deep into all of the details here, but they're still efforting to make sure the show in Tinley Park happens. Right now, as of today, the state of Illinois now allows 50% capacity in convention halls, which would roughly translate to about 600 attendees in the hall as of right now. Now, there's still a chance that the state will open by August 7th. So as of today, Tinley Park is still on. And so they're just trying to gather all the information from exhibitors and everybody alike to see. So if you're...
Does that mean you and I all have to take turns in the booth, or?
Yes. Or we'll just do everything.
Capacity.
We'll just do all of the interviews and all of the group things outside of the hall in the parking lot.
Which we've done as well. So
yes, exactly. So anyhow, if you guys are wanting to make sure that you can get to DAX Chicago, make sure that you reach out to the folks at DAX and tell them that you're going to be there to support them and be at the event. And so they can gather all the information they need to make the best decision possible for their event and for the community as a whole. So, all right. Well, we are here to the time where we bring in the real rock star that we're looking forward to talking to here. Nathan Lieber is an Ohio farm boy turned art major. In the past 11 years, he has worked and managed some of the largest spirit wear and retail fashion garment decoration shops in the United States. Nathan founded Lieber Design and Print in 2016 and works to provide high-end fashion apparel and creative graphic development for companies starting or continuing to grow their retail brand. Since then, the company has grown exponentially and recognized by multiple industry and business outlets for creativity and desire to give back in the industry and local community. Nathan loves all things about the garment decorating industry, but his passion and focus is developing teams and leaders to help push and move everyone forward with focus, drive, and collaboration. Nathan, thank you so much for being here today.
Hey guys, what's up? Glad to be here as always. Had plenty of coffee, so I'm good and excited and ready to go.
Awesome. I know you've been busy as heck too, so we appreciate you taking some time out of your day to be here with us. I know I'm jumping off script here again, Terry, but what have you been working so diligently at, sir? What's happening over there?
I don't 100% know in the sense of what happened. Certainly, we saw the down of everything when the virus and the whole pandemic first got going, and Ohio was in lockdown for a while as well, and we went through all that, and just pretty much saw orders dry up pretty quickly. And I still am not 100% sure, but something from April was really dead, and we got to like last week of April, first week of May, and all of a sudden it was just like emails just took off. I don't know what happened, but people just decided they either pivoted and went to online platforms, or they just said, for better or for worse, they don't care anymore, and they just moved on with their lives. I don't know, and all of a sudden orders just started pouring in. We, as far as in terms of capacity, what we did from April to May was double.
Wow.
And from May now through June, we've more than doubled what we did in May. So yeah, so if you're doing that math, we're over 4 times what we did back in April, which is awesome, number one, but also shows the depravity that April was too. So it's kind of a big number. It's not exactly crazy, but yeah. So I still haven't quite fully understood how that happened so quickly. I knew there'd be a bounce back, but it bounced back insanely fast. So we just rolled with it and try and pivot ourselves and move forward.
Cool. And I've been hearing that all over the industry, people saying that they're just inundated with business right now, which I hope means that all that April business that was lost isn't lost forever. I'm hoping that business, like when I teach screen printing classes, well, when you cancel one, it's not like you do not like we're going to do 3 in Chicago over a 3-week period. They're gone forever. But it sounds like the purchases are still there. So that's tremendous. Yeah,
certainly people are sitting at home buying stuff. So I think that's part of it, so it's been awesome. And I talk a lot, every day to my just UPS and FedEx guys. And, they're just swamped and they can barely keep up. So I guess there's some good coming out with all alongside of all the bad. So,
yeah. Well, speaking of business and over the last couple of years, you and I have talked multiple times about how the downsizing of print production orders has come about. Talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing out there about downsizing of orders, print size.
Certainly. I mean, it certainly is just flat out happening. So especially like when I look back with certain things I worked with, big box retail brands that I was working with 6, 7, 8 years ago, at that time, I remember we had such large orders all the time. We were 100% contract shop and had such large orders through these big corporate companies all the time. I remember we would get a 5,000 piece order or 4,000 piece order, which once again, large and small is all relative to the scale of your business. So that doesn't mean anything. But at the time, we would laugh at an order like that. We'd be like, 4,000 pieces. What? I got 3 other jobs sitting over there that are all over 30,000. What? It was almost just like a waste of our time, and flip that to just 3, 4, 5 years later, and all of a sudden, if we got a 5,000 piece order, we were high fiving. That's awesome because we were used to, all of a sudden, those brands went from orders of that size to hundreds of orders of maybe 144 to 280 to 500, or they got more cautious after the recession with having stock. So they weren't always landing hundreds of thousands of units in the US, and they didn't want to take the risk of having stock on hand. So we saw them do things that was best for their business. And in return, they asked us, to start doing smaller runs. And so we had to adjust all on the fly at the time, but you could certainly see that trend coming for a long time. They were always asking for, how can we do smaller orders? How can we do more custom orders in the sense of, doing like individual name drops or cities or things like that. They saw that the same as everybody's seeing it. And so I started personally prepping probably about a year or so before I started my business. So probably about 5 years ago to do just that, hey, these big jobs aren't going to last. The 1990s, don't hate on me for this, but when I was a kid, you saw what you saw at the time was the Tasmanian Devil shirts, the Bad Boy shirts, all that, the ones that everybody wanted that shirt. And there was, I don't know, but there was probably hundreds of thousands of them produced. And I've met people now that worked with some of those massive shops in the 90s that, from my generation, I can't even fathom U.S. screen printing shops of that size. To me, that's always been overseas. Like, it blows my mind when they're like, oh yeah, we had 50 presses here in the U.S. I'm like, what? And but the customer has changed from that. They've changed from everybody wanting the Bad Boy shirt or the Taz shirt or whatever to now they want the custom. They want something that has their state on it. They want something that has their city on it. They want a custom graphic that isn't mass produced because of that. They want the uniqueness and the creativity. So So the brands have certainly changed to adjust with that. Companies have changed. The customer in itself has changed. And as a result, we, as now the garment decorators, you either plan for it and changed, or you're going to be forced to change. Your choice. So, yeah.
And unfortunately, that forced to change sometimes means running out of business if you don't. So,
right. I think Aaron still has that shirt with Fonz going "A" on it, don't you?
which I printed myself back in the screen days. So.
All right, it's probably worth a lot of money somewhere now.
Exactly. I actually just saw it the other day in my closet. So.
Henry Winkler was on a flight I was on here back when I used to travel. He was a very nice guy, sitting a couple rows ahead of me.
And for you younger folks, that's the Fonz.
The Fonz, Henry Winkler from Happy Days.
All right. Terry, you'll have to explain Happy Days to the younger generation here too.
Right.
Anyways, I'm just kidding. So Nate, I obviously, you gave us a lot to chew on there really quick. And I know you mentioned that even before you started your business in 2015, when you started your business in 2016, you were already making some adjustments, but are you continuing to see more and more impact here? And what adjustments are you making now today?
Constantly adjusting. And really, you have to be, as a business owner in general. It's always constant changing and getting better and growing. But in that sense of it, it's probably broken down into 3 areas of what we've had to do most to accommodate the small orders. Because, honestly, while often smaller orders come with higher margins in that sense of it, it was easy to have a 50 or 30,000 piece order and have some mistakes in there, have some things that weren't the most efficient. But you know what? A 30,000 piece order will cover a lot of problems, like orders of that size. That you can have some little things that maybe, you probably should be more efficient in one area or not, but it covers up a lot of them. And so it forces you to really dial in even more. You got to take care of those inefficiencies and really dial down, hone in on what they are. And that's on many levels, and so there's 3 levels that I look at with the small stuff. The first one's the customer. You got to explain to them each type of garment decoration. And we've got to do a really good job now of educating them on it and making sure they understand, so I saw a question here coming up later that said something about the screen printing, what's happening in screen printing. And to me, almost in that sense, in my mindset, I've tossed that out. I'm no longer a screen printer. I'm a garment decorator. And I love screen printing. I mean, I love it. I love linearizing halftones. Like, let's do all that nerd stuff. But I can't do that anymore, So we have to be garment decorators and look at all applications and understand all processes of that to find what fits the best and most efficient for that particular thing. And so, you got to understand DTG, you got to understand transfers, you got to understand dye sub and screen printing. And then you have to take that back and now educate the customer. Because if you don't have those education resources already made and set up, maybe as simple as making a PDF or teaching each one to them, you're going to spend a lot of time educating the customer. And, you may spend hours trying to force them into these parameters for what's going to end up being a 50-piece order. And so you've got to, we try to really educate our customers. And I have a lot of automated materials already set up. And they're just simple PDFs of, we just forward them on to a customer to say, hey, here's the parameters with this type of garment decoration. Here's why you'd want it. Here's the best application for it. Here's what it cannot be applied on. It won't work on this, and so you got to teach them, but you also got to do it in a semi-automated way because you don't have time to go through a college course with them. So that's the first thing with small orders is looking at customers and educating them and then trying to find ways to automate that too. And certainly you can get into chat bots and emails and all those kind of things too. There's a multitude of ways to do that. The next thing that I have seen that's really different with going to the smaller orders is when we had big shops, we had a guy for this, a guy for that, a guy for this. So like literally I had a guy that all he did all day was mix Pantone inks. I had designated screen room people. I had designated press operator, offloader, catcher. That has been shifting for a while and really is starting to go away. Now, instead of that, it's you have a more well-rounded employee that can maneuver and understand almost any of those facets. because you know what? He may be making screens for a couple hours, but then he may be on press offloading in the afternoon. And, so you don't have the size of the orders anymore to just go, hey, you're going to be mixing inks all day, because we're not using a 5-gallon bucket of 186 anymore. We're mixing little quart containers of everything, and that's just what it is. So you have to think of that differently in your staff. You have to set your culture with them, make sure they know that coming in, but let them know that, hey, you're going to be more of a hybrid, a well-rounded person. And so your education or your training has to be aligned with that. Because if it's not, and you're not helping them with that up front and letting them know what roles they're going to be in, and that they are going to be a well-rounded person, they're going to get frustrated, or you're not going to follow through with your expectations with them, and they're going to be upset because they think they're doing a bad job and you're mad at them, and so on and so forth. But it's setting those things then up front and setting the training to be a well-rounded person. So the staff has changed in that sense. The last really big shop I worked in, by time we were wrapping that up here in the last few years, our production artist was not a full-time production artist anymore, because really stuff had moved away from simulated process SEPs. It was vector. He could kick it out in a couple hours in the morning, and then guess what? He's coming out on the floor, because now I'm going to use him as an offloader or a catcher or whatever. So that level on the staff has to change. So it's good and it's bad, because maybe we're not specialists as much anymore, but you do have a lot more well-rounded staff that really understands the big picture now. And I think as a result, it makes for good teams. So yeah, there's my staff spiel. And then the last part is equipment. You have got to be in touch with your equipment, and you have got to be moving forward with your equipment, whatever it is. You need to be on the front lines of what Direct to Garment's doing right now. And Epson released that new one in Long Beach this past year, and holy cow, and that's awesome. And you need to be up to date with that and understanding that. And you need to be like, we don't do any DTG in-house, but I'm always dabbling in it, and I'm subcontracting to this person or that person, and I'm taking in information on it, because I need to learn as much as possible on all forms of decoration, and also the efficiencies of decoration and how that's changing. So I talk about this a lot with, I've talked about it a couple times recently with John Potter of MHM. Say, screen printing is ridiculous. It's weird when you compare it to other printing. Like, why are we registering screens? In almost every other form of printing, they've come up with automated systems to just, you put whatever it is in and you go, whatever plate or screen or whatever you're using. But because we haven't always had a great collaborative environment in screen printing, it's kind of been like this company against this one and this one against this one. They haven't necessarily shared, and almost every company has got some nice little things that make them awesome, and the other one's got some that make them awesome. So, you got to be up to date on your equipment and keep up with that, because those companies are now starting to collaborate more, and it's getting really cool. And so stuff's getting really neat, with like, so you look at the Rocks and you look at the MHMs and you look at the Douthits and the iMages and all that. And guys are now starting to do things like that, of not register anymore. They're getting their stuff dialed in, put your screens in, boom, it's good. That is massive savings when you're talking about small runs. That's the difference between maybe making a profit or not, when you have to run, 60, 40-piece orders in a day. Once again, like I was talking about, when you got 30,000 units and you take an hour messing around, setting up, and something didn't go right, and you got to go back and reburn another screen, that kind of covers up those flaws and those inefficiencies. But you can't really have those anymore. Your profit can be completely burned up in those small runs if you don't have those. So you've got to stay up to date on that stuff. And if you're the kind of person that is just going, I've done it this way for 20 years, I'm going to keep doing it that way for 20 years. All I would beg of you is to look at the big flat stock, the sign industry, all that. Look at those guys that were screen printing that. All that stuff was screen printed. And when the digital started coming on, it went one of two ways. You were either in the crowd that said, I've been doing it this way my whole life. Meh, it's fine. This is going to be a blip on the map. Well, we're fine. And they kept doing it. Or the guys that embraced the new technology. And you see what that industry is. It's almost entirely digital now. So you got to stay up to date on whatever's going on, even if you don't necessarily like it. Like, certainly I'm most passionate about screen printing. I love screen printing, but I've got to stay up to date on the rest because it's coming. It's coming, whether you like it or not, it's coming. And from some of the most recent conversations I've had, it's coming fast. I don't think it's going to be in 10 or 15 years. It's coming fast. So, so stay up to date on your equipment.
Well, I want to comment on everything you said. Well, and you know, it was like every episode of Two Regular Guys for the last 8 years. When you're talking about cross training and things like that, we've been on our soapbox preaching that for quite a while. And I'd love to hear someone out there in the trenches who's actually living that. And when you were talking about, hey, I've done it for 20 years, I'm not going to change. I'm picturing that person wearing that hat that says, "You kids get off my lawn." But you know, you mentioned DTG, and so talk to us a little bit about how short run manufacturing like DTG, like sublimation, talk to us about how that's impacted the industry, and in other words, how has it changed the way our customer thinks?
You know, I don't know if it changes the way our customer thinks. I wish it did, but they don't know what they don't know. And for the most part, some customers are educated and kind of up on it, but many of them, they just want what they want. Right. And so that's for you to establish that up front, establish your minimums, establish what can and can't be done. And that goes back to setting up those educational materials in an automated way. Otherwise, you're going to be just chasing them around forever because they don't know. And they also, for the most part, you know what? Like, I got my event in 2 weeks. I just want my shirts. And I want it to be the color I said I wanted. And I want it to have the graphic on it that I said I wanted. And, you know, they don't necessarily care. Certain places and certain brands and things certainly do. Like, I'm not saying that's something that is entirely there, but you have to accommodate. And so you have to know your stuff, and you have to start steering the conversation with them from minute one to where it's going to work out best for you and still make you a profit. So,
Aaron, I'm not getting any sound from you, so I'm going to have to go.
Where's the
where was the
overdub? You missed the overdub. I hit the stupid button again. Darn it! One of these days, I'll like stick a Post-it note there to say.
And I didn't think fast enough to start overdubbing you in Spanish.
All right. So what I was saying was that I think that's a really good point about that automation of the information. And you know, when some people hear that, though, I think they get a little bit like, automation, that's scary. But it's really, I mean, honestly, it could be as simple as just kind of copying and pasting from a Google Doc, right? I mean, is that what you see, Nate?
We have just basic forms, PDFs, and we set them up and put it in very plain English and, you know, make it look nice and look very visually pleasing. That way, it's just 6, 7, 8 lines of, you know, here's what we need for this type of decorating process. Here you go. And that way it feels very simple for them. It doesn't overcomplicate it. You know, I mean, they don't need to know what mesh size I'm going to choose. You know, they're going to leave that up to me as the printer, you know, and all those kind of things. Once again, they just want what they want, and they want it to be really nice. So yeah, it's just simple stuff like that. And we keep it very simple because literally the culture of my business is we want it to kind of have that like down home one-on-one feel.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean as a business owner, I still shouldn't be thinking about automation. It's just now, how do I automate and still integrate it into our culture and still give it that same feel? So I personally don't use any chat bots or anything like that because that would kind of lean people away from the culture and how we're trying to approach people. That doesn't mean it's bad either. It certainly fits for many companies. But for us, you know, we just do basic things like that. Still make it feel very personal. I send it back to them in an email. I sign my name on the bottom. You know, I thank them, things like that. That way it is automated. It took me 30 seconds to write that email. You know, our emails, I have, if you could see my list of it in my email, you can make drafts and save them, and they're awesome. And you can keep sending them as many times as you want. You know, so I have like a ton of those in there, and they all say the same thing over and over, but it's in my language. Once again, I sign my name. I'm saying thank you. You know, it's still in my style So they still get that feeling that we're
Yeah.
trying to emulate, but yet it's still automated.
Yeah. No, I love that. Those are great tips. I mean, again, like you said, having that all there. So it is send the draft, or I know for a process that I set up, we just had a Google Doc, and people would go and copy and paste. And there's parts in it where you add the personalization of what that specific conversation is, but the bulk of the work to try to explain what's going on is already done. Going back to a couple of comments here, Christine says customer education is so important. Sorry, Eric, I was way back. And the more they know, the more they understand the value of what decorators do. Ron said we're still trying to explain the difference between vector and raster. A great idea to have a one-page PDF. I think that's the scourge of almost every decorator. I still haven't figured out the best way to describe it. I search all the time for okay, who's really explaining this in clear English that anybody could understand, but I haven't found that yet. So we should share that if you have it. And then Christine says, totally agree with not weighing the customer down with stuff they don't need to know. Educate them so they understand, but don't overwhelm them. Yeah, and I think that's a good point too. And what you made there, Nate, was the point about, they don't care what mesh you're going to use. They don't care what process you're going to use. So you're going to educate them as to what's going to make it turn out the best for what they want. But the details of what that is, they don't care, right? I mean,
and you know what? Something else, and I'm sure Aaron has more comment on this than me, but when you talked about this is who we are as a company, that's something that Aaron preaches about all the time. You have to know who you are. You have to define your company. And the person down the street, maybe they're more, cookie cutter, corporate. That's their image. But knowing who you are and communicating that with your staff is incredible.
Right.
Yeah.
No, the culture is the lifeblood, certainly of my shop, and probably really of every shop, whether they know it or not. It probably is. And so I got lucky. I got lucky that I worked at big shops before I started my own. I got lucky that I knew what my target was when I started mine. And so as a result of that, we were able to define what we needed in customers to help us hit our goals and move forward and do the things we wanted to do. Because we have we got big ideas. That's for sure. We want to make money in our company, but that's not our number one thing. Our number one thing is our families, our community, our customers. That's our number one thing. And the number one thing we talk about all the time, and we've got to drill down on this because of the pandemic and the time we had, but we want to add value. We want to add value. That's it. And that means to our community, our customers. That means to the industry on every level, we want to add value. So knowing that that's our goal and being able to move forward, we're able to select customers that will fit that by knowing the parameters of what it's going to take for them to help us reach our goals. So it's very easy then to say yes or no. And we say no a lot. And the other good thing, because like you just said, this company down the road is better at this and that, we refer people to a lot of other people. I never let somebody walk away without telling them where they can get their job finished at. It just may not be with me, and that's perfectly fine. That is okay. But I have this network of people I've built up to go, hey, you know what? We don't do that process, or that's not really something great we do, or that run size is a little too small for our processes, but here's this person here. And then the flip side of it is we have a massive network of subcontractors too that I can send things to. So if it's a good big order that, hey, okay, it might be good for us to still take in and it's profitable, but you know what, really we're not drilled down on that process, but this dude out wherever is cool, and so, case in point, I work with one guy that's got 16 color autos. I could get a 16 color auto, but we would use it twice a year. But you know what, when I get 1,000 shirt order that I do need something that's got a lot of colors, cool. Now I've made friends with that guy and I can just send it out to him. He's thrilled, because he's got art ready to go and we just send it out to him. And so all that stuff is so important with the smaller run sizes, is knowing what fits you and what's going to get you to your goals. And then you can just eliminate things very quickly.
Yeah, I'm just smiling ear to ear here that this is all of the stuff I totally love. That, like you said, your company's got a culture, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
And if you don't control what that is, it's going to control your company. And so I love all that. I love the knowing who your customer is and knowing what fits. That's just. I think we're almost at like a mic drop moment here. Just like, hey, everything I've talked about for the last 8 years, just do what Nate's doing and you'll be good.
I don't know about that. We certainly have our flaws and our problems, but we're lucky that I have a killer team, and more importantly, I have a lot of friends in the industry too. So I've gotten crazy good advice over the years, and there's nothing that I know, like there's nothing I'm saying right now that's news. It's all you guys and the other guys within your groups and that came before you, that I'm just regurgitating that stuff in 2020. Yep. So I'm very lucky that I've got the friends in the circle around me that I do.
Yeah. Well, little secret, we're all regurgitating it from people that we've learned from too. Right. So it's part of the process. So that's awesome. I love it. So, all right, let's stay on track here. Because I could go way off the deep end on this stuff, and I know you love talking about it too, Nate. But let's talk a little bit about let's get the crystal ball out. Let's kind of look ahead. What do you think the future of I know I'm going to say screen printed apparel, but let's just say the future of apparel is in your eyes.
Boy. I don't know for sure, but
that's why you have.
We're going to hold you to this, Nate. Come on.
I think screen printing, in the sense of how we think of it, it's not going to go away, but it's almost going to go away. So, and this all pains me to say this, I think if you're a person that you thrive on simulated process steps, you may not need to keep brushing up on it anymore, because I think that's going to go away. I think what you're going to see in the next 10 years is most presses, whether they're even manual presses or not, they're probably going to get smaller and their footprint's going to get smaller, but there's going to be a direct to garment in one of those heads. Now, the really cool thing with that, it's already started. These things have already started, but right now you got to have some pretty big stuff to be able to accommodate that. But, what's cool about that is I've had some massive presses to be able to work on in past years. And even then, you get into some complex simulated process and they wanted special effects. There wasn't enough heads. There just wasn't enough heads. Without having an oval, there just wasn't enough. Yeah. So it's going to be cool, because now what is going to happen is we're going to be printing underbases. We're going to be flashing that. We're going to be sending it to the direct to garment. There's our full color image. Cool. Let's dry that off and let's bring it back around. Guess what? Now all the rest of my heads in my press, I can put down my puff. I can put down my metallics. I can put down an adhesive for a foil if I want, whatever. And so I think that's going to be what it's going to turn into is that. And so, I think the simulated process and having like tons of screens going and everything that aren't special effects, I think that's probably going to go away. And it seems like the industry is getting more collaborative, and like it's going to go away sooner than later now. So I think it's really cool. And one thing we started doing specifically because of this, because I had some friends that are with these companies, they're like, this is coming. We print almost, probably over 50% now of all our production is printed with HSA inks. Why? Is it because we necessarily have to? No, because a lot of times it's just a white print. But if my staff is trained on HSA and knows how that's working, when this digital hybrid comes through, that's not going to be a problem for us. And if you wait till it comes through and it hits you, then it's going to be a bear, because not only then do you have to learn the digital, but now your guys got to learn HSA printing or water-based printing or whatever you want to call it along with it. And now you got two big hurdles you got to jump over. So, I can't emphasize that enough of, if you just kick that can down the road to start to learn HSA, hop in, get something, get one color, try it, just start using it. And we use it all the time now, and it's great ink. And so we know when we get to the point where we want to put a DTG in our press, it's not going to be a major headache now, because we've already learned half the process.
Yeah. Nice.
Right. Exactly.
I appreciate you explaining what HSA was. I was like, hold on, I gotta go look that up.
High Salads acrylic.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
Well, we're getting down to the end of our hour. Let's shift gears a little bit. You and I and Aaron, we've run into each other at a lot of trade shows over the past few years. And what's your anticipation of, what's next? What trade shows are going to happen, do you think? And do you think trade shows are going to change now that we've had this experience where this hiatus from trade shows for a while?
Boy, yes, something's going to change. Exactly what that is going to be, I don't know. And, there have been talks for a couple years now from some of the bigger people that rent some of the booths at the shows that maybe some of the smaller regional shows aren't really for us anymore. Maybe we'll just stick to the bigger ones. So I do think that is going to be what's going to happen. I don't think you're going to see even just in the most recent year, there've been certainly a consolidation of them, and I think that's going to continue even more. So, it may be down to, I don't know, 4 trade shows or so a year. So, I don't know how you're going to get all your frequent flyer miles if it goes down to that, but it's not, I think that may be what it is. The really cool thing, though, about all of what's happened, and certainly we don't know even more what's going to happen with them because of the pandemic, but we've had all this digital stuff happen. So cool. So while there may be less trade shows, we're probably reaching more people than ever before. Because all of a sudden, this person in this niche or in this corner, or, I'm going to pull something real wild out here, but a person in Alaska, that can't get to a trade show at all. Maybe there isn't, but I don't know. But as far as I know, there isn't one in Alaska. They all of a sudden have the able to meet and Zoom chat and get in these collaborative environments. And really the finished product hasn't been much worse. I mean, I look at what Marshall and Tom did with their most recent shirt lab, and that was all online. And really, it was great. It was great and great content. And as much as I love a good trade show for looking at presses and once again, getting into the nerd side of it, really at the end of the day, the trade show is the contacts and having those people and finding this guy that's really great at this or that. So you have those subcontractors, and so you have those industry experts to fall back on when you don't know the answers. But the digital have done so well that you're still being able to pick up those contacts and those things that you never could before. There's a couple guys I talk to in Italy all the time now that, even 10 years ago, I would have never been able to come in contact with them, and they're many, many times smarter than me. And so I get blessed to pick up a little 10% of what they're saying and try and understand it and get to glean some of their knowledge that before we would have never been able to. So, yeah, I guess to answer the question succinctly, less trade shows, more online stuff probably.
I think it's interesting also from a vendor standpoint because, I in the past, last year, I probably did 15 trade shows. Well, as a vendor, you feel like you have to be there.
Right.
Well, now there's no place to be. So suddenly all that expense and for any listener who's gone to a trade show but not been on that side of the aisle, it's tens of thousands of dollars to do a single trade show. Move your freight from the dock to your booth, $5,000. That's what you pay the union to move that product for you. The hotel rooms, the meals, all of a sudden the vendors aren't spending that money. So I think a lot of vendors are investing that money in webinars, in Zoom meetings, things like that, and realizing it's just like training. A lot of us have had technicians go out and train customers. Well, you know what? You can't do it today. So I think they've discovered that, I can do this from my office in front of a machine, do this training one-on-one. And I never went to the airport. I never got on an airplane. I never spent the money for it. And the customer's getting the same experience. So I think I think everybody's going to reevaluate come 2021 and about how they spend their marketing dollers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think if you also look at the flip side of that, though, I agree that this opportunity to have these digital interactions, like you said, you get that footprint a bit wider than, okay, the people that are here in this area are going to be there, kind of thing. I mean, just looking at our comments right now, we've got Gosta from Sweden checking in, so again, I would have never had an opportunity to meet somebody like that without something like this. But on the flip side of that, though, I think it also makes some interesting opportunities. Cindy King says it's just not the same. So I think you got to find that happy medium of how do I provide the value, but okay, if these big companies are pulling out, well, that's a really good opportunity for somebody that goes, okay, well, that leaves a space for me to take advantage of that opportunity. Sure. And like you said, Terry, if you're somebody that's been doing training live with people, then that's cool. But now that's changed. Well, guess what? At a certain point, that may be your differentiator, that, we still send somebody to you,
Right.
There's definitely both sides of it. And you just have to figure out, with Nate, your customers, so you can figure out what's best for them. And I think that's going to be the real key, is knowing who your customer is.
So here's a question for you guys then. If we're looking at trade shows and there's going to be less, will it actually, no, I think the big trade shows have already been better, like Printing United and all those killer, with all that stuff there. But, is it actually going to make it more of a rare and valuable thing for your customers by having less maybe? And so the ones that then we now do have may be better attended than if, say, you had one that was smaller and yearly, because you're going, I can just go to it next year. I can just go to it next year. But now if you make it more of a rare thing and a bigger event, maybe it'll actually be the opposite. You'll actually have more people attending the big events, even though there's fewer of them.
Well, I think that from my standpoint, that if say there were 4 big trade shows, then me as a vendor, I'm probably going to have a bigger booth, have a bigger offer to the customer who's there. So yeah, I think it would be more of an event, and not that many years ago, there weren't 15 trade shows for me to do. It just feels like there's a new one. Well, up to last year, there was a new one every year in some new location. And again, you had to be there, but your presence might have been a 10 by 10 booth with 2 people working there, just so you could say, I was there. Just so you could say hello to that customer of yours that's going to stroll by. But, I think it would be awesome if there were, say, but who's going to take the fall? Is it Impressions Expo? Is it DAX? Is it Printwear? NBM show? Who's going to say, okay, well, I'll back off?
Yeah. I mean, that is an interesting thought, and I agree. If it's an annual thing, or if it's something, honestly, in a way, that's why I've always actually loved the DAX shows. It's the same place every year. There's just 3 of them. And it's like you get to those and it's like old home week a little bit, you get to get back. Charles said, the online seminars have been great and convenient. However, I miss the interaction of the shows. It's like seeing the big casinos and lights in Vegas is an experience in itself. And it's just that ability to, I don't know, this is great. But being able to, sit next to you at a bar, Nate, and have a beer and talk about these things is way different than sitting in front of a camera.
Which we have in fact done, everyone.
We have.
Exactly right. Well, hey, there wouldn't be 2 regular guys if it wasn't for trade shows, because this show came out of Aaron and I sitting in hotel bars at the end of trade shows, talking to vendors and talking to attendees about the industry. And Aaron said, this would be a great podcast. And I said, what's a podcast? So
Yeah. I mean, I think it just comes down to balance. I think we got to find a balance. And, that is, like you said, there's certain good things that have come out of this whole pandemic. And I think a lot of it is just the fact that it's forced people to do a little bit more than they thought they could do, and to try to be better and raise the bar. So,
right.
All right, cool. Well, Nate, tell our listeners where people can find you, interact with anything that you've got going on that you want to share with folks. We really appreciate your time today.
Well, I have more people working with me now, so I'm getting to the place where I have more time to help other people with their problems. So that's been really cool. And of course, I'm a millennial. So you can find me on Facebook and Instagram really easily. I'm pretty I don't know what the word is. I'm very active within the Facebook groups and things. So you can find me on there. Of course, you can contact me direct, Nathan Leber, or you can look at my company stuff or any of that, and that's at Leber Design and Print. And then if you do want to actually email me direct too, you can go straight to our company one now, and that's the word create, and that's at leberdesign.com.
Wonderful. Awesome. Yeah, definitely. Make sure you guys are connecting with Nate, and wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for your time again today. And let's do this more often.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thanks, Nate.
Thanks.
Cool. Well, that was awesome, Terry. It was great information. Always good talking to Nate. And again, when he was going through the culture stuff, and the whole time I was just smiling, going, "Man."
I was just thinking, Aaron's got to be giddy right now.
For sure. I just love talking to people who get it, and so yes.
Well, and you know, Nate is that classic, newer to the industry than you and I, but he's that classic person that got involved in it and said, I really love this industry, and so when we were talking in a bar, yeah, I mean, we were at ThreadX and sitting at the hotel bar talking about the industry, and you know, people that basically buy in to what they're doing for a living, get excited about it, and they those are the innovators. Those are the people that we want to talk to on this show about their company culture and so on.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, it's really cool. I mean, like I said, we're sitting there at a bar and we're talking shop, or we're talking work per se, but it doesn't feel like that. You know, it's just fun.
Right.
Yeah. So it's yeah, that's what it's all about, I think. And like you said, it's kind of where this whole thing came from. So been pretty cool. All right.
One real quick thing. It struck me that Nate said, "What if I'm in Alaska?" Because just yesterday I was talking to a gentleman, and his shop is in Alaska, and he said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that I was watching your webinar, and I really loved it, and I thought, man, that comment that Nate just made just struck home, because that exact experience happened to me yesterday."
That's cool. That's really cool. Awesome. All right. Well, let's talk about some of the things coming up here, Terry, and then we'll get you out of here. I know you're going to have to shoot out of here pretty hot. But Eric's got Demystifying Next Level Digitizing webinar. It's now in recorded form, as we've been talking about. Better running, bolder, more beautiful embroidery with a faster cycle time from concept to completion. You can get access to that webinar over at bit.ly/EricDD. And that's ERICHDD. And then also make sure that you're joining Eric today on his show at 2:30 Mountain Time for his newer program called The Take Up. And today it's all about developing an eye for embroidery. This will be really good information. Eric's always sharing the latest and greatest, and love hearing what he has to say. You can catch him at facebook.com/Eric. And again, that's ERICH.Campbell. And so make sure that you are checking that out and say, "Hey, I heard about you from the two regular guys." So he knows that his efforts here are much appreciated. So what about you, Terry? What do you got coming up here?
August 8th, 10:20 a.m. I'm going to be at the DAC show in Chicagoland on being a great screen printer. August 28th, I'm going to be doing at the Impressions Expo in Fort Worth. These are all assumptions on my part.
Here, I've got my fingers crossed for you.
That's going to be August 28th at 1 o'clock. 10 things you need to know about DTG printing. My upcoming complete screen printing business course, Workhorse Products in Phoenix, August 22nd, 23rd. Atlas Screen Supply in Chicago, September 19th and 20th. And all my upcoming 2020 classes and events are at terrycombs.com under tour dates. And as always, Aaron, can constantly be updated. How about you?
So I've got montco.biz up and running. And it's a new site that I put together to be able to support folks through the feedback that we've gotten from our Success Group community, but also through the decorators community and stuff like that. The feedback we got was that people were looking for some wholesale services. So right now we've got some face cover blanks available. If you're needing any face covers to sublimate on, we've got those actually here in the US, as well as the ability to do some wholesale one-off full color direct to garment shirts. And we've got more coming soon, updating it as often as I can, as often I can get to it. And in the future, we're hoping for some sublimation transfers and some sublimation fulfillment stuff. So we're just trying to kind of support, our goal is to provide resources that empower businesses to achieve their idea of success. And that's the feedback we've been getting. So I'd love your feedback in any ways that we can support you. But if you want to check that out, it's montco.biz. And then as far as our success group goes, we do have our next training determined. In fact, I'll be getting all that information online at oursuccessgroup.com today. But let's see here. It's 2 weeks from this Wednesday. The date just escaped me. There we go. It's the 8th of July. We will be presenting the science of pricing. So how to price your products for profit. And to be able to be a part of that training coming up on the 8th, plus all of the past training we've done and future trainings that we'll have coming up, just go over to oursuccessgroup.com and sign up to become a member over there. And then lastly, on July 1st, Todd Downing and I have been doing a Q&A with TNA, and TNA stands for Todd and Aaron, just to be clear. But I'm going to be giving away 2 copies of a book that I'm reading right now called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. It's a really fantastic book. It's really helping me kind of take some things in and make slight changes, the incremental changes. In fact, even Nate brought that up earlier on in our conversation, how we all just need to be making these slight improvements to our business each day. And so I think this is a really good book, but I'm going to give away 2 copies of that book to random people who are part of the Success Tracker program that we've got over at our Success Group. So if you want to check it out, go over to oursuccessgroup.com/ST and sign up for that to be eligible. It's only $20 to do it, and you're going to get support to reach your goal, plus an opportunity to win one of those books. It's a great one and totally worth the read. So that's what I've got going on, Terry.
Aaron, I had a phone call to start my day today, and it was someone who said, "Hey, do you know where you can get sublimation blanks of face masks?" And I said, "I do. Let me see if the website's up." There it is. Go to montco.biz.
Nice, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to have some contacts and just kept hearing everybody struggling. I think there's some available now, so I'm definitely not the only game in town, but we got them there. I don't know if we did it the most efficient because it's not really the business, but hey, they're there. They're available for you. People are really liking them. I saw some from a good friend of mine, Sandy, just today on Facebook. She did a beautiful job with them. So I think they'll turn out really nice if you're looking to do that. So thanks for sharing that, Terry. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right, Terry. Well, we've come to the close of another show. Thanks to Nathan Lieber. I've always said it wrong, so I'll just leave it.
Same with me.
Thanks to Nathan, and we appreciate him being a guest. Wonderful information. What a great guy to talk to. And like I said, I'm super excited for the future of our industry with people like Nate leading it. So thanks to him.
It was great having Nate back on the show after it's been quite a while since we've had him on. So we also want to thank our show producer, Eric Campbell. You can find him at ericcampbell.com. And thanks to our sponsor, Impressions Expo.
Indeed. Thanks to both of them for sure. And next week, Terry, on Monday, actually, which date is escaping me, I think 29th, if I'm remembering that right. If you go to Terry's Big Book of Travels, it might be there. But
for some reason, I'm on October on mine. So
okay. I'm pretty sure it's the 29th. So next Monday, let's just leave it at that. Next Monday, we are going to actually be able to do another bonus show. And thanks to Eric for hosting us again over on the Take Up, the special bonus episode of the Take Up. That'll all be available so you can get it checked out. In fact, I'll get that posted today, folks. Thanks, Eric. And we are going to be talking about what to do after the sale, kind of the follow-up side and how to, I don't know, to me, this discussion's about how do you create raving fans? How do you create loyal customers? And so that's happening on Monday. We're looking forward to having that conversation with Eric. And then on Friday, our regular day, we'll be back with Warren Warbit, and he's going to be talking about sales in the real world. So
not the MTV show, but the real world. No.
Yeah, the actual world we all live in. Not the MTV show. I appreciate that. Yes, so that's next Friday. So definitely tune in for that.
Fantastic. Well, until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Aaron Montgomery.
And we are the Two Regular Guys.
Thank you for listening to Two Regular Guys. Check out our website at tworegularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/2regularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/2regularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, 2regularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.